Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay. Parents often say they grow up so fast. Today, children are being sexualized earlier and earlier, in part because they are exposed to sexual material in movies, television, music, the internet, and other media earlier now more than ever. With widespread access to the internet, inquisitive teens may accidentally or intentionally be exposed to millions of pages of information that is sexually explicit, uncensored, often inaccurate, and potentially harmful. It is becoming an epidemic in our society today. This epidemic is not just a male issue. Its ugly tentacles are reaching to our young women as well. It is oozing into every family in America. I know this because it has oozed into mine. My son, at a very young age, was watching the Transformers movie and asked me what masturbation was when it was mentioned in the movie. As parents, we have always been open and taught our children at the right moments and at the right time. So we sat and talked to him and, and about it and our beliefs on the matter. Many years later, imagine our surprise when he tells us he has a masturbation and pornography addiction. He admitted to us that it all began with watching that movie. As parents, we never thought that we should be worried too much about our daughters. We couldn't have imagined that pornography would ever tempt them. We couldn't have been more wrong. It did reach its ugly grasp into one of our daughters. The University of New Hampshire has done many studies that deal with children and pornography. They estimate that up to 90% or more youth between 12 and 18 have access to the internet. In 2005, they did a survey and found that 13% of youth internet users 10 through 17 years of age visited X-rated websites on purpose in the past year. However, even more youth, 34%, were exposed to online pornography. They did not want to see primarily through links to pornography sites that came up in response to searches or misspelled web addresses, or through links within websites, pop-up advertisements, and spam email. 2 years later, in another study, that percentage rose from 34 to 66%, doubled in just 2 years. Just a year later, a third study from the same university found that 93% of boys and 62% of girls were exposed to online pornography during their adolescence. You don't need to be a scientific researcher to realize that's a lot of exposure for children. Pornography is every bit as addictive as drugs and just as harmful. It affects our youth differently than adults. Between the ages of 10 to 13, there is a rapid growth period of the brain. Brain scans have also found the teenage brain is dominated by areas associated with pleasure and reward and emotional response. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is central in our drive for personal reward. When teens take part in stimulating or potentially addictive habits such as pornography, there is a flood of dopamine in the brain. With repetitive increases of dopamine released into the teen brain, it is rewired to crave the same effect. Teen brains are the most sensitive to dopamine at around age 15 and react up to 4 times more strongly to images perceived as exciting. A teen's brain is at its peak of dopamine production and neuroplasticity, making it highly vulnerable to addiction and rewiring as their brain is not yet finished developing. Sexuality specifically increases delta phos-B, which is a protein that serves a role as a mediator in natural reward memory. This study also found that overexposure of delta phos-B induced a hypersexual syndrome. Research has long established that teens who watch movies or listen to music that glamorizes drinking, drug use, or violence tend to engage in those behaviors themselves. In 2012, a study was published in the Psychological Science shows that movies influence teens' sexual attitudes and behaviors as well. They found that the more teens were exposed to sexual content in movies, the earlier they started having sex and the likelier they were to have casual, unprotected sex. In another study, boys who were exposed to sexually explicit media were 3 times more likely to engage in oral sex and intercourse 2 years after exposure than non-exposed boys. Young girls exposed to sexual content in the media were twice as likely to engage in oral sex and 1.5 times more likely to have intercourse. Research also shows that teens who listened to music with degrading sexual references were more likely to have sex than those who had less exposure. Exposure to sexual pornographic material is correlated with concentration problems, low motivation, depression, social anxiety, negative self-perceptions in terms of physical appearance and sexual functioning, and erectile dysfunction. In 2015, behavioral science came out with a study in neuroscience of internet pornography addiction. In this, they confirm everything that I have just mentioned, including almost 100 more studies on this same subject matter supporting these conclusions. I am here to express my concern that more needs to be done to protect our children. Parents need to be informed and educated as well as children. Instead of having computers, phones, and gaming devices so readily to expose our children to pornography, where parents have to regulate and add locks on devices, I say let us do the opposite. Let us have the devices already protected when we get them out of the box so parents don't overlook forgetting to add the protective locks on for their children. This is just one idea. Other programs and policies need to be put into effect to do this. Laws need to be implemented to protect our children from the grasp of pornography. As of right now, 24 states, only half of our country, have internet filtering laws that apply to publicly funded schools or libraries. The majority of these states simply require school boards or public libraries to adopt internet use policies to prevent minors from gaining access to sexually explicit, obscene, or harmful materials. This is a step moving forward, but I am here to say today that we need to do more. As adults, it is our responsibility to protect our children from harm. Pornography is indeed harmful. From this day forward, let us begin by taking the steps necessary to raise healthy, productive children, free from the damaging and destructive clutches of pornography. Thank you.
Very good. Awesome.
Thanks.
Tammy, your time was 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yay! And I even cried, and I tried. I can't tell you guys how many times I tried so hard. Like, I've read that, and I didn't cry and didn't cry and didn't cry. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be so good. This is awesome. And then you go to do it, and it's like,
Anyway. It was great. It's a personal story, so it was good. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did anyone want to start with a question?
Bring it on.
I'll start, but really it's not fair because I had the question before, so it's like you pretty much already refuted all of it, but I'll ask the question anyway. And it's something that I actually stumbled across a couple weeks ago when I was studying pornography for a different issue, for another class. But one study shows that pornography can enhance life. What do you think of that?
I actually came across that study.
Okay.
And because I was trying to get ready for the questions that would come my way. And I looked at that study, and I felt like it was a matter of opinion more than anything. To me, it was like one study versus 100 studies that I had mentioned from the University of New Hampshire that proved through all of theirs. They had multiple studies on the harms of pornography against children, especially, but also they included an additional 100 other studies that showed the same thing. So to me, I would rather take the majority than just the one as proof.
Cool.
Okay, my question is, so I've heard that pornography is a huge money-making business, and so how would you regulate it? Like, would you just say it's illegal, like drugs, or you can do it when you're 21, like alcohol? Like, how would you filter that?
Yeah, it does make sense. I don't think that I think pornography is regulated as much as it's going to be, as far as the government goes, as far as like the internet access and different things. People can argue it's a freedom of speech, and if you take away pornography and their freedom to express themselves in that way, it's going against the Constitution. But to me, it has to do with protecting our children, and we need to set up laws that protect our children until they are old enough that they can choose for themselves and not just stumble upon it and then get addicted to it at a young age.
Okay. Tammy, my question you kind of covered as well. I had looked up that they were trying to pass the Child Safe or different programs like that to be on the computers. My question was, do you feel, what are you going to say to people who say that will take away the parents' rights to choose what their kids look at, or even what their adults look at in the house if they are expected to put those onto their computers, the Child Safe program?
Well, like I mentioned before, technology, computers, gaming devices, which are geared towards children, phones. Most children have phones nowadays. All of those devices have internet access, have access to pornography. And it's not a matter of losing their freedom of choice. Children don't necessarily know the the decisions that they make. If they do see that, they don't know the ratifications of those decisions and the consequences. So the way I look at it, as adults, we can decide to use pornography or not. We're old enough, we know the consequences and the outcome for the most part. And so for me, if those child safety procedures are placed into law, it's not doing anybody any harm, because we can still have access to those as adults. It's just that the children won't.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome job changing subjects too. Very good.
Thank you.
Very convincing.
Okay, who's next?
She sits back.
Yeah, you done. I would love to go next if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tammy, did you want to time or you want me to time?
Yep, I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Sorry. My name is Nicole Norman. Okay. As I jumped out of bed to turn off my buzzing alarm clock at 5:30 a.m., I realized that my sister Robin was not in her bed. I assumed that she had for once gotten up before me, so I began to get ready for seminary. As I yelled for her to hurry up so we wouldn't be late, I realized she wasn't anywhere in the house. So I went downstairs, asked my mom if she knew where she was, and my mom fearfully said no. I ran back upstairs and looked at a piece of paper that was crumpled up on her desk. The paper looked like it had been torn out of the phone book. It had an address, but the name and number of the place had been torn off. My mom told me to go to seminary and that she and Dad would call a few friends and see if they knew where my sister was. I got in my car, said a prayer, then disobeyed my parents and drove to the address that was on that paper. My heart sank when I pulled up to see that the location was a women's clinic. When I walked in, I saw my 15-year-old sister sitting with her head in her hands, crying all by herself in the waiting room. She hugged me and asked me how I knew where she was. I explained, and then I held her in my arms as she sobbed uncontrollably, which seemed like forever. She tearfully explained that she had taken a test and she had found out. I was shocked and I couldn't find words to speak. After a few minutes of both of us crying, I asked her what she was doing in a place like this. She told me that she and her boyfriend had decided it would be best for her to terminate the pregnancy. She said she didn't want to, but she was young and she couldn't have a baby in high school. I told her that she had other choices. I begged her not to go through with this, and I told her that this baby doesn't deserve to die because it's an inconvenient time for her to have a baby in high school. I convinced her to come back home with me so we could discuss her options with our parents. She was terrified, but agreed to come with me as long as I sit with her. When we arrived home, it was as if my parents already knew what we were going to say. As Robin bravely told them that she was pregnant, my parents' eyes filled with tears. For the next couple of hours, they discussed options with her and then calmly told her she would not be going home. They expressed their disappointment with her actions, but explained that they loved her very much, and it was something that we could all get through, and the family would prevent love and support along the way. Perhaps you know of a similar situation of a young, scared girl who found herself pregnant and didn't know where to turn. The hope is that she wouldn't turn to abortion. Did you know that an unborn baby's heart begins to beat 8 to 20 days after fertilization? and the brain waves can be detected as early as 40 days after fertilization. Yet knowing these facts, since 1973, there have been more than 55 million abortions in the United States. Women have cited social reasons, not mother's health or rape or incest, as the motivation in approximately 93% of those abortions. Abortion was legal in the United States on January 22, 1973, through a Supreme Court decision case named Roe v. Wade. The court effectively legalized abortion on demand throughout the full 9 months of pregnancy. Since that ruling, we are fortunate enough to have like the National Right to Life organization. The mission of the National Right to Life is to protect and defend the most fundamental right of human mankind, the right of life of every innocent human from the beginning of life to natural death. America's first document as a new nation, the Declaration of Independence, states that we are all created equal. We're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life. The National Right to Life organization carries out its life-saving mission by promoting respect for worth and dignity of every individual human being, born or unborn, including unborn children. This organization works to achieve its mission through education, legislation, political action. It addresses the symptoms of the problem and provides other safe options. And it is ultimately working at changing the law. Its activities include providing research, educational material, information, and leadership training for effective right to life citizenship, as well as sponsoring legislation which will advance the protection of human life and supporting the election of public officials who defend life. What can we do to help advocate for this great cause? We can give of our time. We can use our voice to fight for these unborn children that can't fight for themselves. This organization welcomes all people to join this great cause. This nationwide network of 50 affiliated state groups, thousands of community chapters, hundreds of thousands of members, and millions of individual supporters all across the country act on the information that they receive from them. The strength of the organization is derived from broad, diverse, dedicated people united to focus on the issue, the right to life itself. Since the National Right to Life's founding in 1968, the First Nation Life Group, it has dedicated itself entirely to defending life. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback said at the convention in 2012, quote, "The place you change America isn't Washington, it's in the states. That's how we change this life debate. It will be at the state level. Different states doing this, making very positive key changes until it can migrate to the federal level. And a court case can get up to the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade will be overturned, which will eventually happen. We have to keep pushing all the state levels. Women from 2008 to present are more pro-life and less likely to abort than any other population of pregnant women since 1973. Why is this? It's because attitudes have changed, actions have changed. More unborn children are living to see the first day of their birth. And just like my sister Robin's story, every child has the right to life. Robin went on to give birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. She named her Genesee. That little girl is now 27 years old and is currently in graduate school in Washington, D.C., and will soon be a practicing psychologist. Genesee is grateful every day of her life that her mom chose to let her live.
Yay.
Thank you. Okay.
Very
Questions? Thank you.
You were 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you were right under. Perfect.
Whoa, okay, thanks.
Okay, so
if we don't have any questions, we can just move right on.
I have a hard one for you, but it's not hard.
No.
It's not hard if you think about it.
Okay.
how? See, and I don't. Anyway, these aren't fair because I had to ask these questions before I hear the talks. How do you justify taking the right of a woman's choice from them?
Okay. Well, I think what's tough is when you're looking at the mother or you're looking at the baby. To be honest with you, it might take away that little bit of that female body, right? But the point is, if you look at any biology, the baby is a baby and has a heartbeat after 14 days. So we're really protecting that child that is in the mother. So we may be taking that right away from that mother trying to decide and choose if she should have a baby, but we are protecting the life of the child, which is ultimately, you can't ever take anybody's life. So that is what we're defending, is the rights of the child. So that's my answer.
Awesome. That's a good answer.
Yeah. And that's kind of along my same line as John's question. Isn't it the woman's right to do what she wants with her own body? If the embryo or fetus can't sustain life on its own outside of the woman's body, then what makes it her responsibility to sustain it inside of her until it reaches to term?
I guess because she's the one where the baby was given. Whatever act that took to get herself pregnant, and she, even in the case of rape or incest, it's just a selfless act if you are going to, as a mother, give that child the right to live. There are a lot of studies that I came across that I didn't include in my speech that talked about how the emotional damage of the mother who actually goes through the abortion is a lot harder for that mother to deal with than actually giving birth, even in a case where she was raped or molested, because the long-term effect of the emotional damage that it does to that mother in her whole lifespan is, the statistics are absolutely incredible of how many people end up with depression, mental health issues, and actually even end in suicide because they feel such guilt for taking the life.
Good.
My question is, what if you find that the baby has a handicap and the baby might have just a terrible life because of health problems? Would that justify an abortion?
I think that it might be a moral issue at that point, but I know that they do offer those tests for the people when they're pregnant and to take at like 8 weeks and 16 weeks. And I know several women that choose not to take that test, and they just feel like if the baby can grow to a full term, they may be born, and those test results might have been wrong. And if they are wrong, then it's still not anyone's right to choose if that child should be born or not. No one has the right to make that decision to end that child's life before they're given the chance to fight after birth.
Interesting.
Good job,
Thank
Nicole.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good job on the story of me and us and all that.
Yeah.
Good.
That's really good. We're going to get to know each other, little insights more than we probably want to know, right?
Exactly. Okay, who would like to go next?
I'll go next. Mine's not as personal, maybe. But anyway, okay.
So you saying you're not going to cry over yours, Catherine? Maybe John will. John will get the tears going.
Probably. Nicole, are you timing for me, or?
Oh, I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start it when you start.
I clicked on a link in my Facebook feed. The title read, "New Bathroom Rule. It's Worse Than We Thought." The article explained how Washington State's Human Rights Commission enforced a statewide policy on December 26, 2015, that allows people to enter into any public restroom or locker room that coincides with their stated gender identity. The definition of gender identity determined by the Human Rights Campaign is, quote, One's concept of self as male, female, a blend of both, or neither. One's gender identity can be the same or different from their assigned sex at birth, end quote. So gender identity, that could possibly change every other day. Personal flashbacks of my high school days in Washington fluttered into my mind. The bathroom was the prime place for mischievous conduct, from drug exchanges to promiscuity and more. This policy is concerning not just for myself, but for my future family, for anyone using a public restroom, and, of course, you. If someone is uncomfortable with using a public bathroom, hypothetically with the opposite gender, then they are obligated to choose to leave the restroom, but not the transgender person at all. Washington State, are you telling me that if my little girl is at school using the restroom and a man walks in, that if she has a problem with it, then she would be responsible for leaving, not the man? Yes, that's correct. Does anyone else see a problem with that? These policies overly favor transgender people. According to UCLA research from the Williams Institute, there has been surveys conducted from 2007 to 2009 that show there are only 0.3% transgender adults. Only 0.3%, comparatively to the current national population of over 322 million. That's hundreds of millions of people that could become more vulnerable to the trend and the repercussions of this law. The trend for these bathroom laws are in motion. Transgender bathroom laws are extending outside of the United States and into surrounding countries like Canada. Though these laws are still new, there has been dreadful evidence shown that these laws could result in more sexual assaults. According to the Levant Show in Canada, in Ontario, there was a specific case where a women's shelter could not deny entry to a man. This man, Christopher Hambrook, took advantage of this law to enter. In consequence, he was allowed into their changing rooms, bathrooms, and showers. He was a repeated serial sex offender who outright assaulted at least 2 women there that day. Even one case of this law being misused should be a cause for repeal. There's no doubt that these laws make people like you and me, and especially our children, extremely more vulnerable to sexual predators. Furthermore, this law closes the door to open communication between you and your child. The Family Policy Institute concludes that this law also asserts that your child could reveal their gender identity and that the teacher has no right to inform or ask you, the child's parent, regarding their statement. This is concerning because students are required to inform their teachers of their stated gender identity, but not their parents. Unlike academic or disciplinary actions, this means open communication on this touchy subject of gender identity is not mandatory between the school, parents, and their children. Ideally, teachers should be encouraged to be proactive in establishing open communication when parents and teachers, between parents and children, and what happens at school. Levant Show post from Canada says, this document bullies parents and makes every single girl in the province of Alberta a guinea pig for letting men into women's bathrooms. Furthermore, Q13 Fox News stated that Senator Doug Erickson disagreed with the Commission's new policy. He says, parents have a right to expect that when their child goes to school, the children should use the boys' locker room if they're a boy, and the girls should use the girls' locker room. Many people, fortunately, do realize the plausible harmful consequences of this law and have sent bills to repeal the policy. For example, according to King 5 News, Senate Bill 6443, which would require repeal, was narrowly defeated early February 2016. Though now defeated, there is still hope if the people of Washington will act. Washington State registered voters can create and sign an initiative or a referendum where a statewide vote can determine an abolishment to this law. This law seemingly jeopardizes family relationships and creates vulnerability for more sexual assault and more crime. Furthermore, children can't do anything about it. That's why we need you to be their voice, their protection. Understandably, there must be protection for both transgender and not. There is genuine concern for transgender people. We're concerned that they may feel uncomfortable and in danger of being bullied. But this law would not have guaranteed protection for transgenders and otherwise. Instead of protection, the effects would be devastating. For those of you who aren't Washington State residents, don't be surprised if this issue comes to your state. You need to be ready to defend your rights and your children's rights to public privacy. Washington State registered voters, don't you know that you have the power? You have the freedom to start an initiative today and put an end to this law once and for all. That's all.
Very good.
I'm crying because I'm wondering why this is even a law.
I know.
Yeah.
But have you noticed a trend that it's all about protecting the children? At least so far with the three of us. I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so Catherine, discrimination is defined as distinguishing differences between things or treating someone as inferior based on their race, sex, national origin, age, or other characteristics. So, for example, if a person is born male and in turn changes their sex to female and defines themselves as female in every sense of the word, how is it not discriminating by not allowing them to use the women's bathroom?
I personally don't think the problem is discrimination. I think it's just safety. Like, that's hard to answer, but I think it just comes down to safety. Like, if we look at past surveys and stuff that's been done, there's going to be sexual assaults, and so I don't really know how to answer that question.
I thought you answered it perfectly. As I said it and then saw the look on your face, you're like a deer in headlights, and I'm like, oh, was that a hard question? But I thought you answered it perfectly because it is about safety. I thought it was a great answer.
Any more questions?
I'll go. It's small writing, sorry. You got me laughing. How would you propose for a transgender to use the bathroom? If they identify with being female but look like a male, it would make them uncomfortable to go potty in the male bathroom.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage like family bathrooms, and just one stall, and either a male or a female can go in there with their family one at a time. And so I would encourage those. And if companies or public places don't have the budget, or like schools, for some reason they can't do that, I think the real issue is being bullied. Like that's why transgender people want to have different bathrooms, because they're afraid of being bullied or looked at weird. So I think like promoting in schools not to bully other kids that might be transgender is the real issue, and would provide more protection, because that law wouldn't guarantee that kids wouldn't still be bullied or things like that.
Thank you.
My question was kind of similar to that. I was just saying, what if a parent of a 6-year-old, the child looks like a boy and is not, and needs to go to the bathroom? And my similar question was, do you encourage that child to go into the girls' bathroom? And then if so, when they're a young child, I'm sorry, a boy's bathroom. when they're a young child, I could see how that situation would work. But then as a teenager, or they're getting older, then as you shared in your speech, it can create a big problem of safety for the child. So because you kind of answered that in your speech, my question was, is your answer to have 3 bathrooms, one for boys, one for girls, and one a generic bathroom that only transgenders use, or for anybody to use? What would be the solution?
Yeah, I think that would be the solution. But of course, that might mean the public places would have to have extra taxes, and it depends what the people would want. But I'm pretty sure that if the people do start a referendum or an initiative, then those people would be willing to pay a little bit extra to help out these public places to have that restroom instead of jeopardizing and having all these horrible things possibly happening. So if Washington people are willing, which I'm sure they probably would be, they have enough money, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's great.
I have a
I have
follow-up
to-
question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
So, okay, is it, if I feel like I'm a woman today, then I can say that I'm a woman today? And then if I feel like I'm a man tomorrow, I can say that I'm a man tomorrow? Are there like, is there no, like a driver's license, when you want to change your last name or drop a name or something or change your first name, you have to go through the registration process. I mean, what about something like that, so that you could actually carry around, not carry an ID, but carry around that credential that, okay, I changed and I'm actually identifying myself this way, to stop stuff like someone else going in the bathroom that shouldn't be, just because they want to.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, that's an awesome idea. One problem would be just like kids, like where does the line stop? Like if you're in elementary school versus an 18-year-old wanting to have like a legal document per se saying that, right? And so I think it would be harmful because especially teenagers or kids, they're still trying to figure out themselves, and they might switch identities because they might feel like, oh, actually, you know, I was wrong. I actually am a boy.
My husband says the one way to find out is just to look down your pants. That's what my husband says. But I have to say this, too, is I had a friend come over this morning and we were talking, and I asked her these 3 questions I was going to ask you, and I'm like, do these questions sound okay? What do you think? And she said, do you know that this, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but, you know, I live in Utah, very, you know, Mormon land, and in Salt Lake Valley, and she goes, this just happened over at the elementary school, and my youngest is now in junior high, so I didn't hear anything about this, but apparently this year there was a girl who sees herself as a boy, and she was pitching a fit because she had to go into the girls' bathroom, and it went up to the principal, and the parents came in, and all this other stuff. And it's here in Utah, so I think it's gonna reach everywhere.
Definitely.
It's just out of control.
Yep, it is. So, John, we saved the best for last.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for all the fun. You're about to have more now. All right.
I'll just start it when you
Okay.
start.
Okay. Recently, a local Arizona man dropped off his 13-year-old daughter to spend the weekend with her mother, his ex-wife. A day later, he received news about his daughter that no parent ever wants to discover. While intoxicated, the boyfriend of the ex-wife sexually assaulted the daughter. The father is now in an ongoing custody battle and fighting to keep his daughter safe through restraining orders. The battle wouldn't have been so difficult for him just over 10 years ago. Arizona used to have cohabitation laws that gave power to children by not allowing parents who were living in an unmarried relationship to keep a child overnight. And just over 40 years ago, it was illegal to live in an unmarried relationship. Today, there are only 3 states that have cohabitation laws, but they're rarely enforced. While cohabitation is widely accepted in our modern society, we must consider the health and safety risks it poses to our children. It is imperative that American policymakers recognize that traditional marriage is safer than cohabitation in protecting children from issues like poverty, instability, and physical and sexual abuse. The institution of traditional marriage seems to be taking a backseat to alternative lifestyle choices like cohabitation over recent generations. Since the no-fault divorce law that was introduced in the 1970s, divorce rates have remained high. I watched my own father walk out of our home when I was 5 years old. My dad remarried, but my mother did not. Throughout my childhood life, I watched my mom date various boyfriends who never showed any interest in me or my brother. According to Wendy Manning, author of Child and Well-Being, the median income of cohabiting parent households is about 50% lower than that of married parent households. She also reports that only 33% of children born to cohabitating parents remains in a stable family through age 12, contrasting that to 75% of children born to married parents. And these two statistics alone present the dangers of poverty and instability for children who are born into cohabitating homes. I am one who grew up in instability due to a parent cohabitating after divorce. I spent much of my life trying to catch up to living productively in society due to our poverty level. Most of my life has been a struggle trying to separate my identity from the disadvantaged demographics of my past. I believe that there are many who are out there struggling with the similar issues, but it doesn't have to be this way. One of the great things about living in America is the opportunities for change. I've been given a second chance at being a positive contributor to society. Through much hard work, I now enjoy living in a marriage relationship with 5 children who anticipate a bright future. My life experience has taught me that America was built by healthy, productive families, by wives and husbands who were committed to each other in love. America became a leader of nations through principles of character that were learned in homes with mothers and fathers who taught their children how to be good citizens. This was all done not through cohabitation, but through the commitment that only marriage offers. Traditional marriage, the most basic unit of society, is the only unit that can provide the most promising opportunities for a stable society. No other unit describing itself as a family outside of marriage has been able to produce as promising results. History has shown us that. Unfortunately, our government is passing laws that are anti-family in nature. The government continues to spend more time and money on repairing the ills of society that are consequences of laws and policy decisions that were made just a few short decades ago. What can we do to help the children have a better chance at stability in this world? We can restore the faith in our young adults toward the one institution that provides this best option, traditional marriage. We must remind our nation's leaders of the contributions that traditional families have given to this country. We must advocate for the family unit by getting involved with organizations like smartmarriages.com that promote traditional marriage. This organization uses scholarly research to remind everyone of the positive contributions that traditional marriage gives to society. They also educate couples of dangers that come from cohabitating. For example, David Popenoe and Barbara Defoe Whitehead, authors of Should We Live Together? What Young Adults Need to Know About Cohabitation Before Marriage, contributed to research to smartmarriages.com. Their studies have found that, quote, living together outside of marriages increases the risk of domestic violence for women and the risk of physical and sexual abuse for children. Moreover, children living in cohabitating unions are at higher risk of sexual abuse and physical violence, including lethal violence, than are children living with married parents, unquote. The chances of sexual abuse of a child is 33 times higher when the mother lives with a boyfriend. Imagine how many children can be protected just by passing laws that safeguard them from being placed in situations like the 13-year-old daughter in Arizona. If you believe in marriage, join organizations that promote strengthening marriages. Passing laws that protect marriage also provides children with more stable opportunities in family life. Stable families build stable communities. Children are entitled to a mother and a father who, bound in marriage, provide a safe, nourishing environment for growth. This is where the character of America was founded upon. Leaders in our nation need to place a priority into policies that encourage child rearing through traditional marriage. But we can do this. It's worked for many centuries. Traditional marriage and family relationships give children the highest opportunities to become productive members of society. Policymakers need to discontinue making cohabitating unions into institutions that carry the same social status as marriage does. Governments of the world have known for centuries that stable families produce stable societies.
Good job.
Good job. Thank you. Hey, John, I have a question. My question is, what makes a piece of paper like a marriage license? I'm sorry, let me read it. What makes a piece of paper such as a marriage license mean, like, how is that going to make that? I can't read the rest of my question. What makes a piece of paper like a marriage license mean that you're going to have a more successful family versus just the couple that's living together? Why would they be more committed or things like that?
You know, part of my speech referenced some of the research that's been done on it, but research has shown over and over again, many different studies, that it really comes down to one thing, and it's commitment. That marriage commitment, that paper, it symbolizes a different status in society, and it's that commitment that when people are ready to go through with it, they stay longer. They produce better families that way. It's been shown in research that cohabitating units, a lot of them don't even end up making it to marriage at all, and they also fall apart. I didn't come up with a stat on it, but there are research that most of them end up failing before they even get to marriage anyway. And I believe that comes down to commitment.
Okay, thank you so much. Perfect.
Well, that was my question. I said, a piece of paper is commitment and love. We are going to be committed as a family, and we don't need the government's approval. Our children are taught that true love is only between the two of you. And then I would ask, how would you respond? So, Jonathan, you were saying that it's just backed up by research that...
It's backed up by research. I'm sorry I don't have the paper open on it, but another answer to that same question is this, and it's backed up by research. And what they think is it's possible that because you're getting married, it's an all-in type of a situation. Whereas if you don't get married, a lot of people, cohabitation is appealing to them because it's a chance to try out marriage without the commitment. And so, but the research does show that those who end up cohabitating, it's a pretty high percentage that end up not even getting to marriage at all. Some do make it, they do, but the chances of, and what we're talking about here is providing a stable environment for kids. And so the best environment that's provided stability for kids has been marriage over the years, not cohabitation.
Okay, so I'm going to change my question then, because you kind of answered mine that I was going to say. Plus, my question would have spilled out a little more dirt on my family. But I was going to ask, so you just said that it's better for children, marriages are, and to raise them in a marriage. So let's say it's a man and a woman who don't plan on having any children, and they just want to live together and still just, or they say they're still as committed and everything else. They don't plan on having children. What do you say to that?
Well, I should have opened up my research papers and kept them open, but I would still say the same thing. Yes, you could still have that you could still have that. I wouldn't say commitment. You have a commitment, but it's not the marriage commitment. The fact is that here. Let me get the answer real quick. If you give me just a second. Okay, I can't. I've opened up way too many papers to get the recent. The fact is that the research still shows that those who cohabitate still end up having a dissolved relationship at a higher rate than those who marry. Mm-hmm. You have a stronger chance and a stronger opportunity of staying together longer when you marry. That's in the research. Another thing is that those who marry end up having higher incomes. So if you don't want to have kids but you want to have a lot of money, you might want to look at getting married instead, because the comparison between the two is that cohabitating versus married, you have a higher chance of making more money that way too.
Cool. Very good.
Thank you. Woo.
I think we all did awesome.
Yes, it's over.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay.
I agree.
Good luck on your thing tonight, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
It's a fun topic. I'm surprised that a lot of people are actually interested in it, so it's good.
Good.
Yeah, baby.
I hope it provides a good discussion.
I just signed up for my statistics class and signed up for the teacher that you recommended, John.
As long as he keeps doing what he was doing in the past. Did you stay with it, Nicole?
No. When I was in Idaho, they did let me drop it. I dropped the one you're in and also the math.
Okay.
So I was going to take both of those next semester.
Well, if he's the same, it's still going to be a little challenging, but boy, he takes away a lot of it. I hope he is the same as for you guys.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you had it yet, Catherine?
No, I already took statistics. So
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I have to take like that research method. I'm planning that for fall, and then I'm planning on graduating next winter. So that's the plan.
That's cool.
Good.
John,
Hey,
you're close, aren't you?
Yeah, I got one more tip. I got a phone call a couple days ago letting me know that I could register for next semester yesterday. And all I have to do is my internship. So I got online to register for my internship, and it told me I couldn't. And there's a lot of seats that are open. Actually, all of them were open. I might have been the first one. And what I found out from it was that you have to actually have your internship set up already, and then you have to apply through a different link at BYU online, and I guess tell them what your internship is. I was totally thrown off by it. I have to update my resume now and go find the internship, and then I can apply. And I hope that there'll be enough seats left when I do. But just letting you guys know that ahead of time. I didn't know that.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know.
Yep.
I knew that we had to set it up ahead of time, but I didn't know that there was like this whole application thing that we had to do.
Yeah, I got it yesterday. I emailed an advisor, and they said, because I said I couldn't do it, and they said, well, here, you have to go to this link first. Did you apply first? And I said no, and they said, here, go to this link first, but before you do, you have to make sure that you have your internship all set up. So.
Oh no.
You have to have the family practicum done before you do your internship?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing because that family practicum's awesome. I like it, but it is just so time consuming.
Yeah, it's
Great.
right.
What
Yeah,
was that? It's 4 credits, yeah. But it's also, they call it a mastery level class, and so you don't get graded by ABC. You get graded by, like, if you're in a master's program.
Wow.
So you submit, and then you have to do that. You'll get feedback, and then you have to do revisions and resubmit again, get feedback and resubmit again. So it's a lot of work to keep doing, you know. But if you just do the work and you keep at it and you get a good partner, it's really awesome. I have a wonderful partner.
Good.
I'm going to stop the broadcast.
Okay.